beloved and chosen one. Something has been happening to you that no one around you has been able to explain. And if you are honest, you have not been able to explain it either. Things have been disappearing, not dramatically, not all at once, but quietly, steadily, one after another. A door you were certain was yours suddenly closed. A relationship you thought was solid began to feel hollow. A plan you had carried for years started unraveling at the exact moment you thought it was finally coming together. And you have been standing in the middle of all of it, wondering if you did something wrong, wondering if God is angry with you, wondering if the life you believed in is simply not going to happen. But I need you to hear this before anything else. What is being canceled is not your future. What is being canceled is everything that was standing in the way of it. There are signs that chosen ones recognize. And if you have been experiencing more than one of these, I want you to know that you are not falling apart. You are being set apart. The first sign is that you have been waking up in the night, not because of noise or discomfort, but because something in you will not settle. Something in you is aware that a shift is coming, even when your waking mind cannot name it. The second sign is that you have outgrown spaces that used to feel like home. People whose company once felt easy now feel distant, and you have not been able to explain why, and you have felt guilty about it, as though something is wrong with you. The third sign is that your prayers have changed. You are no longer asking for the same things. Something has shifted in what you carry to God, and even you are surprised by it. The fourth sign is that you have been receiving what I would describe as repeated signals. The same phrase from a stranger, the same scripture without looking for it, the same idea arriving through 3 completely unrelated sources in a single week. And the fifth sign is the one most chosen ones are afraid to say out loud. You have felt, somewhere underneath all the confusion and the loss, a strange and quiet peace. Not happiness, not relief, but peace, as though something in you already knows what your mind has not yet caught up to. That peace is not denial. That peace is recognition. It is the part of you that was built for this moment already knowing that what looks like an ending from the outside is something entirely different from the inside. Heaven has not gone quiet. Heaven has gone to work. And the reason everything around you feels like it is being rearranged is because it is. Not carelessly, not randomly. With a precision and a purpose that your current vantage point cannot fully see yet, but that you were made to walk into. You did not stumble onto this message. You were brought here, and what is about to unfold in this space was prepared for you before you pressed play. The waiting is not something you are still inside of. The season of waiting is not paused, it ended. Before I take you deeper into what this season truly means, I want to pause for just a moment and share something with you. There is a reason that chosen ones often feel a particular kind of mental fog during seasons of cancellation and loss. A heaviness that is not just emotional, but almost physical. Science has begun to understand why. Researchers studying brain frequency have found that chosen ones, people who carry a genuine sense of calling and heightened awareness, are born with a stronger gamma brainwave than average. Gamma is the frequency associated with peak mental clarity, creative insight, and what scientists describe as moments of sudden knowing. But long seasons of hardship, loss, and unresolved waiting suppress that frequency over time. The signal is still there. It is simply being dampened by the weight of everything you have been carrying. Dr. James Rivers, a neuroscientist with over 30 years of research affiliated with MIT, spent decades studying this specific phenomenon. What he developed from that research is called the Genius Wave, an audio program that takes just 7 minutes a day and is designed to reactivate that suppressed gamma frequency without requiring meditation training, special skills, or any prior experience. If you feel something stir in you when I describe it, the link is already waiting for you in the pinned comment below. We will come back to this in much greater detail very soon, but I did not want to take you through everything that is about to unfold without first giving you that anchor. Now let me come back to what is actually happening in this season of your life, because the cancellations you have been experiencing are not what they appear to be on the surface. There is a divine logic running underneath all of it, and once you begin to see it, you will not be able to unsee it. God does not cancel things carelessly. When heaven begins to remove, to redirect, to close, it is not because your life is being diminished. It is because something is being built that the old structure could not hold. You cannot put new wine into old containers, and many of the things that have been leaving your life were containers. Good containers, meaningful containers, containers you loved, but containers nonetheless. Containers that would have cracked under the weight of what is coming. Think about what it means for God to cancel everything around a person. It is not an act of abandonment. It is an act of extraordinary focus. When a skilled craftsman is working on something precise and delicate, everything unnecessary is cleared from the surface. The workspace is stripped down. The clutter is moved. Not because the clutter was worthless, but because the work that is coming requires full attention, full space, and full clarity. You are that workspace. And God is working on something that requires you undistracted, unentangled, and unencumbered. The cancellations are the clearing, and the clearing always comes before the building. You may have been interpreting the silence as absence. You may have been reading the emptiness as evidence that nothing is happening. But silence in the natural world is often the moment just before something breaks through. The soil goes quiet in the days before the seed cracks open. The sky goes still in the hours before the rain arrives. And a person's life sometimes goes very, very quiet in the season just before God does something that cannot be undone. You are in that quiet. And you are not abandoned in it. You are accompanied in it more than you have been in busier, louder seasons. Because the noise was filling the space where the voice of God needed room to land. Let me give you something to do with that right now. 3 simple steps, and you can do them wherever you are listening to this. Step 1. Bring to mind one thing you are grateful for that did not happen. Not what you received, but what was withheld from you. The door that did not open, the relationship that did not continue, the plan that did not go through. Hold it gently and say quietly inside yourself, that protection was love. Step 2. Say this to yourself slowly and with intention. I am not behind. I am exactly where the next thing begins. Step 3. Sit in 7 minutes of silence. No phone, no background noise, no content. Just 7 minutes of your mind held open. Let what needs to rise, rise. This practice is the beginning of what I will take you into fully in the next part of this message. Right now, if something in you has recognized itself in what you just heard, I want you to do something simple. Press like on this message, not for the channel, but because somewhere right now there is another chosen one in the middle of their own cancellation season who needs this to reach them, and your like is the thing that carries it there. Leave a word in the comments, any word, because chosen ones who show up here are not watching alone, and your word becomes company for the next person who arrives and wonders if anyone else has ever felt exactly this way. Share this with one person who has been quietly carrying something they cannot explain. And if you have not subscribed yet, let that be the thing you do so that when the next message comes, it finds you without you having to search. There is also a donation link in the pinned comment below. If this message has been light for you, passing something forward, there is the simplest way of making sure the next person in the dark finds their way to it. You owe nothing, but if you feel moved, it matters. Now let us go deeper. The 7 minutes you just sat in are a doorway, and what is on the other side of that doorway is what I want to give you fully in what comes next. There is something that was never told to you about the years you spent waiting, and I want to tell you now. Not to explain the past away, but because understanding it changes everything about how you step into what is coming. Earlier in this message, I briefly mentioned something. Now I want to give you the full picture. You were not waiting because nothing was happening. You were waiting because everything was happening, just not where you could see it. Beneath the surface of every quiet year, every unanswered prayer, every door that stayed shut, something was being constructed on your behalf with a level of care and intention that the human eye is simply not equipped to observe in real time. The architects of ordinary buildings let you watch the work as it rises. But when heaven builds, it often builds. Underground first. The foundation goes down before anything goes up. And you have been living on top of a construction site without knowing it, wondering why the ground feels unsettled, not realizing that what is being laid beneath you is the very thing that will hold the weight of everything that is coming. The hidden truth is this: the waiting was not empty. The waiting was the work. Every moment you chose to stay faithful when the evidence was telling you to give up, something was being added to what is being built for you. Every time you showed up for a life that did not yet look like what you were promised, you were not wasting time. You were being qualified, not by achievement, not by performance, but by endurance. And endurance is the one thing that cannot be faked, cannot be shortcut, and cannot be purchased. It can only be lived, and you have been living it. But I want to be honest with you about something else. That endurance has had a cost, and that cost is not nothing. The years of waiting have done something to your mind, not permanently, not irreversibly, but measurably. There is a weight that accumulates in a person who has been carrying hope for a long time without visible confirmation. It settles into the body. It changes the quality of sleep. It dulls the edge of creative thinking. It makes the mind work harder to access the clarity and the insight that used to feel more natural. This is not weakness. This is what sustained pressure does to any system that was not built to carry that pressure indefinitely. This is exactly what Dr. James Rivers spent over 30 years studying, affiliated with MIT and drawing on research that spans neuroscience, human performance, and the study of what he calls frequency suppression. Dr. Rivers identified something remarkable. The people who carry the deepest callings, the ones who demonstrate the clearest signs of purpose-driven lives, consistently show a measurable suppression of gamma brainwave activity after extended seasons of hardship and unresolved waiting. Gamma waves, functioning between 30 and 100 Hz, are the frequency of peak cognitive performance. They are present in moments of sudden insight, deep clarity, creative breakthrough, and what researchers sometimes describe as the experience of knowing something before you can fully explain why you know it. In other words, gamma is the frequency of the very thing chosen ones are supposed to carry into the world. And the waiting season, if it goes on long enough without intervention, quietly dims it. What Dr. Rivers developed in response to this is the Genius Wave. It is a 7-minute audio program built on the principle of brainwave entrainment, which is the brain's documented ability to synchronize its own electrical activity with an external frequency delivered through sound. The Genius Wave uses a precise combination of binaural beats and isochronic tones, calibrated specifically to guide the brain back into theta and gamma states. Theta, sitting between 4 and 8 Hz, is the frequency of deep creative access, accelerated learning, and intuitive awareness. It is the state that children live in naturally and that most adults have largely lost access to. Gamma sits above it as the frequency of integration, of the mind operating at its highest capacity. The Genius Wave moves the brain through theta and into gamma in a single 7-minute session. No meditation experience is required, no special skill, no extended time commitment. 7 minutes, and the frequency that has been suppressed by years of waiting begins to come back online. I want you to notice something. In the practice section a few minutes ago, I asked you to sit in 7 minutes of silence. That was not incidental. That was an introduction. Your brain has already begun to respond to the invitation of stillness. What the Genius Wave does is take that same openness and give it a precise frequency to synchronize with, so that the restoration is not left to chance, but is guided by 30 years of research into exactly how the chosen mind reactivates after a long season of suppression. Let me tell you about someone who came to this with significant skepticism. A woman named Sandra had spent 11 years building a business that never quite broke through. She described herself as someone who had always felt a strong sense of calling, but had spent so long pushing against resistance that she had quietly stopped trusting her own instincts. She started using the Genius Wave, not because she believed it would work, but because she had run out of reasons not to try something new. Within 3 weeks, she reported that the mental fog she had normalized over years had begun to lift. She said it was not dramatic, it was not a sudden lightning moment. It was more like a window being cleaned. She could see the same view she had always had, but suddenly it was clear. Within 2 months, she had restructured the core offering of her business in a way that she described as obvious in hindsight. Revenue followed, but more than the revenue, what she kept coming back to in the message she sent was that she felt like herself again, not a new self, her actual self, the one that had been there all along underneath the weight of the waiting. I know that some of you are hearing all of this, and something in you is stirring, and something else in you is hesitating. And the hesitation might sound like this: $39 is not nothing, not where I am right now, not after the season I have been through. And I want to say directly to that voice, you are right. $39 is not nothing. Your resources are real. Your constraints are real. And I would never ask you to spend what you do not have. But here is what I also want you to hold alongside that. The Genius Wave normally carries a price of $49. Through the link in the pinned comment below, it is available today for $39. It comes with a 90-day money-back guarantee, not 30 days, 90 days. That is 3 full months to use it, to sit with it, to let your brain respond to it. And if at any point in those 90 days you feel it has not been worth it, you receive every dollar back. No argument. No lengthy process. The risk sits almost entirely on the other side of the transaction, not on yours. What you are being asked to is $39 and 7 minutes a day. What is on the other side of that investment is the reactivation of the frequency that your calling was always meant to run on. The frequency that the waiting dimmed. The frequency that is still in you, still intact, simply waiting to be turned back on. One more thing I need to say clearly. There are imitations and copies of this program circulating online, and I want to protect you from them. The Genius Wave is only available through the single link in the pinned comment below. That is the only source where you are guaranteed the authentic program, and the authentic money-back guarantee. Do not search for it elsewhere. Do not purchase from any other source. The link in the pinned comment is the only one I can stand behind, and it is the only one that carries Dr. Rivers' full 90-day protection. I also want to be honest with you about availability. The pricing available today through that link is not permanent. The preferential rate of $39 is offered for a limited time and to a limited number of people. And when either the time or the quantity is reached, the price returns to $49 without notice. If something in you has already said yes, do not let that yes sit too long. The pinned comment is there now. The link is active now. And the version of you that is on the other side of 7 minutes a day of this practice is not a distant future self. That version of you is one decision away. But now I want to set the product to one side for a moment and come back to you, because there is something in what you have been carrying that deserves to be named and honored before we go any further into what is coming. The next part of this message is for the part of you that has been trying to hold it together, the part that has been quietly grieving what the years have cost, the part that has been wondering if anyone actually sees what this season has taken. That part of you has been waiting to be spoken to directly, and I am about to do exactly that. There is a particular kind of pain that chosen ones carry that almost no one around them ever names. It is not the sharp pain of a sudden loss. It is quieter than that, and in some ways harder to bear because of its quietness. It is the pain of being in a room full of people and feeling like you are watching everything from slightly outside of it. It is the pain of smiling at the right moments and saying the right things and going home afterward and sitting in the silence of your own company and wondering if anyone in that room actually saw you. Not your accomplishments, not your personality, not the version of you that you have learned to present, but you, the actual you. The one who is tired, the one who is still believing, the one who has been holding something in your chest for so long that you have almost forgotten what it felt like before you were holding it. That pain has a shape, and I want to describe that shape carefully, because when chosen ones hear their own experience described with precision, something shifts. Not because the pain disappears, but because being seen changes the weight of what you are carrying. You were not built to carry it unseen. And today, in this space, that changes. There are 4 signs that people in a season of cancellation and divine repositioning will recognize, and I want to name them one by one. The first is a sudden wave of sadness about the past that arrives without warning and without an obvious trigger. You are doing something ordinary, washing dishes, driving a familiar road, sitting in a meeting, and something moves through you that feels like grief. Not grief for a specific thing, but grief for time, for the years, for the version of yourself that was so certain, so full of forward momentum, and for the distance between where you thought you would be by now and where you are standing. This wave does not announce itself. It does not ask permission. And when it passes, you often feel ashamed of it, as though a chosen one is not supposed to feel that kind of sorrow. But the sorrow is not weakness. It is evidence of how deeply you have invested in what you believe. Only someone who truly believed could grieve this specifically. The second sign is that familiar places and familiar people have begun to feel heavy and strange. Environments that used to be comfortable now carry a friction you cannot fully explain. Conversations that used to feel easy now feel like you are translating yourself from a language no one around you speaks. You have not become arrogant. You have not become difficult. You have simply grown past the container of what used to fit, and the discomfort you feel in spaces that no longer match where you are going is not a social problem. It is a spiritual signal. When a river is ready to break its banks, the current begins to press against the edges. You are the river, and the pressing you feel in spaces that used to feel spacious is the current of your calling beginning to move. The third sign is a recurring dream or a recurring image of an unopened door. It appears in different forms for different people. Sometimes it is literally a door in a hallway you have never seen before. Sometimes it is a threshold you keep approaching but never crossing. Sometimes it is simply the feeling in a dream of being on the edge of something, reaching for a handle, and then waking before you can turn it. This image is not frustration from your subconscious. It is a picture of what is true. There is a door, it is real, it is yours. And the fact that it has been appearing in your dreams is heaven's way of keeping your attention oriented towards something that your waking mind has almost given up expecting. The fourth sign is this: the same message keeps appearing through entirely unrelated sources. A phrase in a sermon that sounds like it was written specifically for your situation. The same concept in a book you picked up by chance, and a conversation you had the following morning, a video that appeared in your feed that same afternoon. Chosen ones in seasons of divine repositioning experience this kind of convergence repeatedly, and they often dismiss it as coincidence because they have been taught to be reasonable. But convergence at that frequency is not coincidence. It is confirmation. Heaven is not subtle when it is trying to get the attention of someone it is about to move. It speaks the same thing through multiple mouths until the person it is speaking to can no longer rationalize it away. These four signs are not random symptoms of a difficult season. They are markers. They are the specific fingerprints of a life that is being repositioned by something larger than circumstance. And alongside these signs, I know there are specific pains you have been carrying quietly. The insomnia that comes not from anxiety exactly, but from a mind that will not stop processing, that keeps returning to the same questions in the dark. The loneliness that is not about being alone, but about being with people and still feeling unseen, still feeling like the truest part of you has no place to land. The specific ache of feeling wronged, not dramatically, not in ways you can easily explain to others, but in small and steady ways that accumulate until the weight of them is enormous. And the pain of being misunderstood, of having your motives questioned, your timing criticized, your faith called naive, your vision called impractical, by people who love you and mean well and simply cannot see what you see. I want to sit with that for a moment before I say anything else. I am not going to rush past it. I am not going to reframe it too quickly or wrap it in a bow it does not deserve. What those years have cost you is real. The relationships that thinned out while you were in the waiting, the career trajectory that stalled, the confidence that took hits it has not fully recovered from, the quiet daily courage it has required just to keep choosing to believe when the evidence was thin. That is real, and it deserves to be honored before it is explained. But now I want to offer you something that will change how you hold all of that. There is a difference, a significant and important difference between being overlooked and being positioned. Overlooked means passed over. It means seen and deemed insufficient. It means considered and set aside. Positioned means placed, deliberately, with intention, in the exact location where the next thing will be able to find you. And what I need you to understand about your season is that what felt like being overlooked was actually the most precise positioning of your entire life. The people who advanced while you waited were not more chosen. They were on a different timeline, moving toward a different destination. Your timeline was not running behind theirs. Your timeline was running towards something that required a longer runway. Not because you are less, but because what is coming for you is larger, and larger things need more room to land. The waiting was not a punishment for insufficiency. It was preparation for capacity. You were not being held back. You were being held in place long enough to become the person who could actually carry what is coming without dropping it. Every chosen one who has ever walked into the fullness of their calling has had a season that looked, from the outside, exactly like yours does right now. A season where the external evidence was thin and the internal knowing was the only thing sustaining them. And in every one of those stories, the repositioning was invisible until the moment it was complete. You cannot see a foundation being laid from the street level. You only see the building once it rises. But the building is only possible because the foundation was laid in the hidden season. In your hidden season, you were not overlooked. You were positioned. And the place you have been positioned in is the exact coordinates where the next chapter begins. If any part of what I just described feels like your story being told back to you, if you felt something shift in the space between one of those sentences and the next, I want you to do something. Press like on this message, not because this channel needs it, but because somewhere right now another chosen one is searching for exactly these words, carrying exactly this weight, and your like is what carries this to them. Leave something in the comments below. A word, a sentence, anything that marks that you were here, that you showed up for yourself today, that you did not let the noise of the waiting drown out the one message that was built for this moment in your life. And if you know someone who is in the thick of what I just described, someone who is tired, still trying, and quietly wondering if anyone sees them, share this with them today. That act of sharing is one of the most concrete expressions of love one chosen one can offer another. If you have not yet subscribed, let this be the moment you choose to remain in this community rather than passing through it. And if you feel moved to leave a blessing in the donation link in the pinned comment below, know that what you offer there becomes the light that guides the next person who finds their way to this message in their dark hour. Now, I want to speak directly to the part of you that is ready to stop calling this a waiting season and start calling it what it actually is. If you recognize yourself in what I just described, type the word ready in the comments below. Not as a performance, as a declaration. Because the moment you name where you are out loud, something in the atmosphere around your life begins to shift. What I want to take you into next is the part of this story that no one prepares you for. The part where we talk honestly about what the years have actually cost, not to reopen wounds, but to honor every single thing you have paid to still be standing here today. There is a cost that no one talks about honestly enough. And I want to be the one who talks about it now, not to pull you back into the pain you have been trying to move through, but because there is something deeply important about being allowed to name what something has actually taken from you before you are asked to step into what comes next. You cannot fully receive what is coming if you are still quietly pretending that what the years cost you was not that significant. It was significant. And you deserve to have someone look at that directly, without flinching and without rushing to the silver lining, before the weight of it has been properly acknowledged. So let me do that now. Let me sit with you in what it has actually cost. There are relationships that could have been built during these years that were not built. Not because you are unlovable or because connection passed you by entirely, but because a person in a prolonged season of waiting and repositioning does not have the Same bandwidth for relationship that someone in a stable, flourishing season has. You were carrying something heavy, and heavy things occupy the hands that might otherwise have been open. There were friendships that might have deepened if you had not been so exhausted at the end of every day from the effort of maintaining belief. There were connections that might have grown into something lasting if you had been able to show up with the fullness of yourself instead of the portion of yourself that was not already consumed by the weight of the waiting. There may have been a relationship, a specific one, that you grieve quietly and do not speak about often, one that you wonder about in unguarded moments, one that you sometimes allow yourself to imagine might have gone differently if the timing of your life had been different. That grief is real, that loss is real, and it does not need to be minimized. There is a career that could have gone further during these years, or taken a different shape, or arrived at a different altitude. You had the capability, you had the desire, and there were moments, specific identifiable moments, where you could see what was possible and then watched something outside of your control intervene and redirect the trajectory. Maybe it was a position you were qualified for that went to someone else. Maybe it was a venture you launched with everything you had that did not get the traction it deserved. Maybe it was simply the accumulation of years spent in work that was beneath your actual capacity, because the door to work that matched your capacity had not yet opened. And you showed up every single day for that work faithfully, professionally, without bitterness on the surface, while something in you quietly ached with the awareness that you were built for more than this and that the more was not yet accessible. There is the freedom to tell your biggest dreams that the waiting slowly took from you. Do you remember when you used to speak your vision out loud without hesitation? When you would describe what you believed was coming without first calculating how the person in front of you would receive it? At some point in the waiting, you learned to edit yourself. You learned which parts of what you carry are safe to share, and which parts will be met with a look that is kind in its intention, but devastating in its effect. The look that says, "I believe in you, but I am not sure I believe in that." And so you began to keep the biggest parts of yourself in a room that very few people have access to. And that internal editing, that constant management of what you reveal and what you protect, is exhausting in a way that is very difficult to describe to someone who has not had to do it. It costs something every single time. And over years, the cumulative cost of it is significant. And then there is the hardest one, the faith in yourself that the waiting has eroded. Not your faith in God, though that has been tested too, but your faith in your own perception. Your faith in your own ability to read a situation correctly, to trust your instincts, to believe that when something in you says this is right, that inner voice deserves to be taken seriously. Extended seasons of waiting have a particular way of undermining self-trust, because you believed something was coming, and it did not come when you expected. And then you adjusted your expectation and believed again, and again the timing confounded you. And after enough cycles of that, a quiet but corrosive question begins to form somewhere underneath your conscious thinking. A question that sounds like this: what if my sense of calling is simply something I constructed to make the difficulty bearable? What if I am not actually chosen? What if I have simply been telling myself a story? I am not going to answer that question yet. I want you to let it sit in the room with us for a moment, because the fact that you have thought it does not disqualify you. Every person who has ever walked in genuine calling has thought it. Every single one. There is a man in the Gospel of John, chapter 11, whose story I want to bring into this space. His name is Lazarus, and he was not a stranger to Jesus. He was loved by Jesus. The text makes this explicit. It does not say Lazarus was known by Jesus or followed by Jesus. It says he was loved, and Lazarus became gravely ill. His sisters, Mary and Martha, sent word to Jesus immediately with a message that carried both urgency and confidence. They said, "Lord, the one you love is sick." They were not making a formal request. They were reminding Jesus of the relationship. They were saying, "You know him, you love him, surely you will come." And Jesus did not come. Not immediately, not urgently. He stayed where he was for 2 more days after receiving the news. 2 days in which Lazarus grew worse. 2 days in which the sisters waited at the bedside of their brother, watching his condition deteriorate. Watching the clock in the way that people watch clocks when someone they love is running out of time, and wondering in the silence of their own hearts why the one person who could change everything had not yet appeared at the door. And then Lazarus died. He was buried. The tomb was sealed, and 4 days passed. 4 days of grief so concrete and so complete that by the time Jesus finally arrived, Martha came out to meet him on the road and said the words that chosen ones in every generation have felt but rarely been permitted to say out loud. She said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. If you had been here." That sentence is one of the most honest things ever spoken to God in the entire biblical record. It is not accusation in the ordinary sense. It is not anger without love underneath it. It is the raw expression of someone who believed completely, who was in genuine relationship with the one she was speaking to, and who could not reconcile what she knew about who Jesus was with what she had just experienced. She had watched her brother die. She had watched the tomb close, and the one she trusted had not come in time. I want you to notice something very specific about this moment. Jesus does not correct Martha for saying it. He does not rebuke her for the implication in those words. He does not explain himself defensively or immediately pivot to what he is about to do. He receives what she says. He stands in it with her, and then he asks to be taken to the tomb. I am not going to tell you what happens at the tomb, not in this part of the message, because what I want you to sit with right now is not the resolution. I want you to sit with the 4 days. The 4 days when the tomb was sealed and the sisters were grieving, and everyone who had heard about Jesus was quietly, privately wondering the same thing. Martha finally said out loud, "If he loved Lazarus, where was he? If this was the one who healed strangers, why did someone he personally loved die while he delayed?" Those 4 days are your season, not as metaphor, as mirror. The delay was not distance. The silence was not absence. The sealed tomb was not the final word. But no one standing outside that tomb on day 2 or day 3 could have known that. All they had was the closed stone and the grief and the question that Martha eventually carried to the road to ask directly. You have been standing outside a sealed tomb. You have been counting days that feel like evidence of abandonment. You have been holding the question that Martha held, not always in words, but in the ache of it, in the waking up in the night with it, in the way it sits just beneath every prayer you have offered in this season. And what I need you to understand is that Jesus knew about the tomb on day 1. He knew on day 2. He knew on day 3. The sealed stone was never outside of his awareness. The grief of the sisters was never invisible to him. The delay was not confusion or distraction or indifference. It was the most intentional decision he made in that entire story. Because what he was about to do required a tomb that had been sealed long enough that no one could explain away what came next. What God is about to do in your life requires the same thing. It requires a situation that has been sealed long enough, silent long enough, closed long enough, that when the movement comes, there will be no natural explanation for it. There will only be the undeniable evidence of a hand that was never absent, working in a timeline that was never yours to manage. The stone is not the end of your story. It is the setup for the part of your story that cannot be explained away. There is a language that heaven speaks that most people were never taught to read, not because it is hidden from them deliberately, but because the world they grew up in handed them a different set of tools for measuring time, and those tools, while useful for calendars and schedules and deadlines, are completely inadequate for reading what God is doing in a human life. And one of the most painful things about being a chosen one in a season like yours is that you have been trying to read a divine timeline with a human clock. You have been using the wrong instrument, and the readings you have been getting back have been breaking your heart. Let me give you a better instrument. The ancient Greeks had two completely separate words for time, and the distinction between them is one of the most important things I can place in your hands today. The first word was chronos. Chronos is clock time. It is the time that moves in one direction at a steady pace regardless of what is happening inside it. It is the time that shows up on your phone screen and on your calendar and in the voice of everyone who has ever asked you where you expected to be by now. Chronos does not care about readiness. It does not care about preparation. It does not care whether the person standing inside of it is equipped for what the next moment requires. It simply moves. 1 second after another, 1 year after another, indifferent to everything except its own forward motion. The second word was kairos. And kairos is something entirely different. Kairos does not mean a long time or a short time or even a specific time. Kairos means the right time, the opportune moment, the precise intersection of preparation and possibility, where what was being built in the hidden season becomes visible in the open one. In ancient Greek usage, kairos was used to describe the moment in archery when the tension of the bowstring and the position of the target and the steadiness of the archer's hand all aligned in a single instant that, if seized, would send the arrow exactly where it needed to go. Not almost there, exactly there. You have been living in Chronos time, measuring your life in years and months, and the widening gap between what you expected and what you have. And every measurement has felt like evidence of failure. But your life is not operating on a Chronos timeline. It never was. It is operating on a Kairos timeline. And Kairos does not respond to the pressure of a calendar. It responds to readiness, to the alignment of who you have become with what you are being sent into. And what I need you to understand is that the delay you have been grieving in Chronos time has been the preparation of your Kairos moment. The waiting was not the opposite of arrival. The waiting was the construction of the precise conditions under which your arrival would be exact. This is not a reward for effort. I want to be clear about that, because chosen ones who have been in long seasons of waiting sometimes hear language like this and interpret it as confirmation that they earned what is coming by how hard they worked or how faithfully they believed. That is not what I am saying. Kairos is not payment for performance. It is positioning. God does not owe you the next chapter because you suffered enough to deserve it. God is moving you into the next chapter because you have been brought through the specific shape of your particular journey to the exact coordinates where the next thing can land. That is positioning. And positioning is an act of sovereignty, not a transaction. Your Kairos moment is not somewhere ahead of you in the distance. It is not a future event you are still building toward. You are standing in it right now. The reason this message found you today, the reason something in you recognized itself in what has been spoken here, is because you are already inside the moment of arrival. You just have not yet seen what the arrival looks like from the outside. Because Kairos, like all things that heaven builds, reveals itself from the inside first. Now let me give you the second instrument. In the symbolic language of Scripture and of every wisdom tradition that has ever tried to describe the experience of divine transition, midnight holds a particular and sacred significance. Not because darkness is good, but because midnight is the precise threshold between one day and the next. It is the moment that is technically still the old day, but is already the first breath of the new one. And in that threshold, something shifts that cannot be seen with the eyes, but can be felt in the spirit of a person who has been awake long enough to notice it. You know what midnight feels like, not as a time on a clock, but as a state of being. You have been in it. The midnight of your waiting season is that place where you have exhausted your own explanations, where your own strategies have run out, where the people around you have run out of encouraging things to say and have gone quiet because they do not know what else to offer, and where you are left alone with the question of whether what you believe is actually true. Midnight is not the comfortable dark of early evening. It is the specific, relentless dark of the hour when everything familiar has gone to sleep, and you are still awake and still carrying what you carry, and the silence is so complete that the only thing you can hear is your own heartbeat and the sound of your own belief being tested down to its last fiber. That is midnight, and you have been there. Some of you are there right now, even as you listen to this. But here is what midnight is in the Kairos language of heaven. Midnight is not the middle of the night. Midnight is the edge of the morning. It is the last possible moment of the old day before the new one begins. And in Scripture, and in the lives of chosen ones across every generation, it is at midnight that heaven begins to move. Not at dawn when the evidence is visible. Not at noon when everything is clear. At midnight. In the specific darkness of the moment when nothing natural would suggest that anything is about to change. At midnight, when everyone thought it was all over, heaven began to move. I want you to receive that not as a comfort phrase, but as a navigational truth. If you are in your midnight, you are not in the worst possible position. You are in the most strategic position. You are standing at the exact threshold where the old day releases and the new one begins, and the darkness you are in is not the darkness of a place God has abandoned. It is the darkness of a womb. It is the darkness that precedes emergence. It is the darkness that exists, not because the light has gone, but because the light is being gathered for a release that will be impossible to miss. The years you have been in were not Chronos years ticking indifferently past your potential. They were Kairos preparation. The midnight you have been enduring is not the sign that morning is far away. It is the sign that morning is the very next thing. And the part of you that is still believing, that still gets up in the morning and still puts one foot in front of the other and still carries the vision, even when the vision feels impossibly heavy, that part of you is not naive. That part of you is the most awake part of the room. Because it is the part that is operating in Kairos time, aligned with a timeline that does not answer to a clock, moving toward a moment of arrival that is not approaching. It is already here. If something in the language of Kairos or in the image of midnight has landed somewhere real inside of you today, I want to gently mention something. The reactivation of your gamma frequency. The thing that Dr. James Rivers spent over 30 years researching, and that the Genius Wave was built to restore, is not separate from what we have been talking about. A mind operating in suppressed frequency reads Kairos through the fog of Chronos. It cannot fully access the clarity that divine positioning requires. The Genius Wave is 7 minutes a day. The link is in the pinned comment. Not as a pressure, simply as an open door, there whenever you are ready to walk through it. What I want to take you into next is something that chosen ones in seasons of transition most need to hear and almost never do. It is the part of this message where I want to tell you specifically, concretely, and without vagueness, what is already moving toward you right now, not eventually, now. Something is already in motion. I want you to hear that not as encouragement offered to make you feel better temporarily, but as a specific and accurate description of what is happening in the unseen architecture of your life right now. The Kairos moment we spoke about in the last part is not a passive concept. It is an active one. Kairos does not simply arrive and wait politely for you to notice it. It moves. It reorganizes. It sends things ahead of itself the way a change in weather sends a shift in the air before the storm is visible on the horizon. And if you know what to feel for, you can already sense what is coming before it arrives. There are 3 things that are moving toward you right now, not 3 vague spiritual possibilities. 3 concrete areas of your life that are already in the process of transformation, whether or not the evidence is yet visible to you from where you are standing. The first is a relational realignment that is already underway, and I want to describe this carefully because it can feel, from the inside, like loss rather than gain. People are leaving. You may have already noticed it. Not dramatically, not always with conflict or closure, but quietly, gradually, the way a tide pulls back from a shore. Relationships that once felt central are becoming peripheral. Invitations that used to come are coming less frequently. Connections that you maintain through effort are beginning to require more effort than you have available. And at some point in the not-too-distant past, you made a quiet and perhaps guilty decision to stop reaching quite as hard. And the space that has opened up in the wake of those receding connections has felt like loneliness. Like evidence that you are becoming more isolated at exactly the moment you most need support. But here is what is actually happening. The relational field around your life is being cleared of connections that belong to the chapter that is ending, to make space for the people who belong to the chapter that is beginning. The people who are moving away are not moving away because you are less. They are moving away because they are assigned to a different destination. And the people who are about to arrive in your life are not random. They are specifically configured for where you are going. They carry what you will need. They are positioned to receive what you carry. And the reason they have not yet appeared is the same reason the Kairos moment has not yet fully revealed itself from the outside. They are being brought from a distance. They are in transit. And the space that feels empty right now is not empty because nothing is coming. It is empty because what is coming needs room to arrive. Do not fill the space. Do not reach backward into connections that are completing because the emptiness of their absence feels unbearable. The emptiness is the room, and the room is almost full. The second thing that is moving toward you is a clarity of purpose that is going to answer a question you have been carrying for a long time. The question sounds like this: what am I actually supposed to do? And the reason that question has been so difficult to answer is not because you lack direction or discernment or capability. It is because the answer requires a level of clarity that can only come from standing in the exact position you are now standing in. You could not have seen this from 3 years ago. You could not have seen it from 2 years ago. You can only see it from here. And what is about to happen is not a dramatic revelation that descends all at once. It is going to come as one clear small step. One thing that you already know, that you have perhaps known for a while, but have been circling rather than stepping into, that is going to become unmistakably obvious in a way that removes the hesitation you have been feeling. When that clarity comes, and it is coming soon, I want to tell you now what to do with it. Do not wait for the full picture. Before you move, do not stand at the door of the one clear step asking to see steps 2 through 10 before you put your foot forward. Chosen ones in Kairos moments are not given the full staircase. They are given the next step, and the next step, taken in faith, reveals the one after it. The question of what you are supposed to do is about to answer itself. Your only assignment when it does is to take the step it shows you without waiting for permission from the people around you who cannot yet see what you are seeing. The third moving thing toward you is a shift in resources and opportunities that is going to feel, when it arrives, less like a windfall and more like a restoration, like something that was always meant to be yours finally finding its way into your hands. I want to be careful about how I describe this because chosen ones in seasons of financial pressure or professional stagnation can hear language about resources and interpret it as a promise of instant wealth. And that is not what I am describing. What I am describing is the end of the specific kind of striving that has characterized this season. The exhausting, grinding effort of pushing against a resistance that never quite gave way, of working harder than the results justified, of feeling like you were running on a surface that would not let you gain traction no matter how fast you moved. That resistance is lifting, not because you finally worked hard enough to overcome it, but because the resistance was never about your effort. It was about timing. It was Chronos pressure applied to a Kairos assignment. And when Kairos arrives, the resistance does not gradually reduce. It releases. The things that would not move begin to move. The doors that were sealed begin to open. Not all at once, not without your participation, but with a momentum and a naturalness that will feel entirely different from the straining of the previous season. You will stop fighting for what is yours and begin receiving what is yours. And the difference between those two experiences is so significant that when it happens, you will wonder how you endured so long in the straining without it breaking you entirely. Here is what I want to tell you not to do during this period of transition. Do not announce it prematurely. Do not spread the news of what is shifting before it has fully manifested, because the early stages of a Kairos transition are delicate, and there are people in your life, some of whom love you genuinely, who carry a frequency of doubt that can dampen what is just beginning to ignite. Keep what is happening between you and God until it is solid enough to stand on its own in the open air. There is a time for testimony. That time is after the thing has come to pass, not while it is still in the process of arriving. And do not look backward. This is perhaps the most important practical instruction I can give you in this part of the message. The temptation in a season of transition is to keep one eye on where you came from, to compare the emerging new chapter with the old one, to measure what is coming against what was lost. But what is coming cannot be measured against what was lost because they do not belong to the same story. The old chapter was preparation. The new chapter is the thing the preparation was for. Comparing them is like comparing the seed to the tree. They are related, but they are not the same kind of thing, and the seed cannot tell you the full size of what the tree will become. You can believe in what is coming, not because believing makes it happen, but because it is already happening, and belief is simply the act of keeping your eyes open, wide enough to recognize it when it arrives at your door. Chosen ones do not simply receive what they have been given. They carry it forward and multiply it. Every person who finds this message is part of something larger than a single waiting season or a single story of breakthrough. If what has been spoken here today has landed somewhere real in you. Press like on this message, not as a gesture toward a channel, but as a chosen one, choosing to be part of a movement that carries this further than any single voice can carry it alone. Drop a word in the comments below as a signal to every other chosen one, watching that they are not here by themselves, that the ground is already shifting for others too. And if you know someone who is still deep in their waiting season, someone who needs to know that the three things I just described are also moving toward them, share this with them today. Stay at this table by subscribing, because what comes next in this series is built on what was laid here, and you do not want to have to search for it when it arrives. And if you feel moved to sow into the donation link in the pinned comment, know that you are not supporting a channel. You are extending this ground for the next chosen one who is about to find their way here and desperately needs what you just received. Type the word receive in the comments if what I just described about those three areas of movement landed somewhere true in you, not as a ritual, as an act of agreement with what heaven has already set in motion. What I want to give you next is something personal. It is a name. Not the name you were given at birth, but the name that describes who you have become through everything this season has required of you. And once you hear it, I believe you will recognize it as something you have always carried, but never had language for until now. There is something that happens in the final stage of a long refining season that almost no one prepares you for. It is not the arrival of the thing you have been waiting for. It comes before that. It is the moment when you look at yourself, not at your circumstances, not at your results, not at the external evidence of progress or its absence, but at yourself. And you recognize that the person standing in this moment is not the same person who entered the season. Something has been forged in you. Something that did not exist before the fire, that could not have been produced any other way, that is now as much a part of your structure as bone. And that thing that has been forged in you is not just a character trait or an emotional resilience, is an identity. It is who you have become, and it is who you were always being made into from before the waiting began. I want to give you the name of that identity today. Not a title, not a label. A name that carries meaning, that describes the specific thing you have been shaped into through the particular path of your particular journey. And the name I want to give you is this. You are a veil lifter. Let me tell you what that means, because it is important that you understand it fully, not just as a phrase, but as a description of the actual function you carry in the world around you. A veil lifter is someone whose presence, whose words, whose way of moving through a room does something to the atmosphere that other people cannot always name but consistently feel. They feel it as clarity. They feel it as the sudden sense that something they could not see before has become visible. They feel it as the lifting of a heaviness that they had grown so accustomed to that they had stopped noticing it was there. A veil lifter does not manufacture this effect through technique or charisma or the careful management of their personal presentation. It happens because of what they carry, and what they carry was deposited in them through exactly the kind of season you have been in. The veil that you are anointed to lift is the veil of false limitation, the invisible but enormously powerful belief that sits over the lives of people around you and tells them that what they are currently experiencing is the fixed ceiling of what is possible for them, that the story they are living is the only story available to them, that the closed doors in their lives are closed permanently rather than temporarily, that the waiting they are in is punishment rather than positioning. You know how to speak to that veil because you have had to contend with it yourself. You have felt it pressing down on your own perception in the darkest parts of this season. And you have, through the discipline of remaining faithful when the evidence was thin, developed the capacity to see through it in a way that people who have not been through what you have been through simply cannot replicate. When a veil lifter speaks, people do not just hear information. Something in them shifts. A perspective that was fixed begins to move. A door they had mentally closed reopens in their imagination. A possibility they had stopped allowing themselves to consider becomes unthinkable again. You may have already experienced a version of this without having a name for it. Someone comes to you with a problem and leaves the conversation with something they did not have before. Not a solution exactly, but a different relationship to the problem. A lightness where there was heaviness. A sense of open space where there was a wall. That is the veil lifter functioning. That is what you carry already, even now, even in the middle of your own incomplete season. And here is the thing about veil lifters that makes the shape of your waiting season make complete sense. You cannot lift a veil that you have never been under. You cannot speak with genuine authority to the experience of invisible limitation if you have never had to press through it yourself. The years you spent in the waiting, the years that felt like evidence of being stuck, of being held back, of being passed over, were the years in which you were being taken underneath the very thing you are anointed to lift in others, not as punishment, as qualification. You were being given from the inside a knowledge of that veil that no amount of study or observation could have given you from the outside. You know what it feels like to breathe in a space where the ceiling feels lower than it should. You know what it costs to keep believing in a room where the air is heavy with the accumulated weight of unanswered prayers and deferred hope. And because you know it from the inside, you can reach people who are in it from the inside. You can reach the ones that polished, untroubled voices cannot reach, because they can hear in your voice the particular frequency of someone who has been where they are and who is speaking to them from the other side of it. That is not a small thing. That is an extraordinary thing, and it was produced in you deliberately through the very season you have been asking God to explain. You are a veil lifter, and the world around you, the specific people in your specific sphere of influence, has been waiting for you to come into the fullness of that identity. They have been living under a ceiling that only you are equipped to lift, and the season of cancellation and repositioning and sacred waiting that you have been in was the final stage of the making of the one who was always going to show up and do exactly that. I want to speak some blessings over you now, not as formality, but as genuine words of release into what you are becoming. May the clarity that has been building in the hidden season rise now into the open air of your life, and may it be unmistakable to you and to everyone your life touches. May every relationship that is meant to accompany you into the next chapter find its way to you with an ease that surprises you, and may you have the discernment to recognize it when it arrives. May the weariness of the long season lift from your body and from your mind, and may the energy that returns to you be cleaner and more focused than anything you carried before the waiting began. May your voice carry the weight of everything you have been through without being burdened by it, so that when you speak into the lives of others, what they receive is not your pain, but your authority, not your grief, but your knowing. May the specific door that belongs to this new chapter open in a way that removes all ambiguity, so that you do not have to wonder whether it is for you. May it carry the peace that only comes when something is genuinely from God, the kind of peace that is not the absence of challenge, but the presence of rightness. May you walk into the fullness of what you are, veil lifter, without apology, without the need for permission from anyone, coming without looking back at the season that made you into the one who could carry this. You have been seen here today. You have been named. And what has been named over you is not a future aspiration. It is a present reality that is already at work in you, already operating in the world through you, already lifting what was never meant to stay down. What I want to bring to you in the next part of this message is practical. It is specific. It is the answer to the question that chosen ones in transition most need answered, which is not what is coming, but what do I do right now, today, in the space between the waiting and the arrival. 3 areas of your life are about to shift, and there are concrete things you can do right now to position yourself to receive each one fully. The question that chosen ones in seasons of transition ask more than any other is not a theological question. It is not a question about the nature of God, or the mechanics of divine timing, or the meaning of suffering. It is a far more immediate and human question than any of those. It is this: what do I actually do right now? Not eventually, not when things become clearer, not when the door opens fully, but right now, today, in the space between the promise and its visible fulfillment. And the reason that question is so important is that chosen ones who do not have a practical answer to it tend to do one of 2 things. They either become passive, waiting in a kind of suspended animation for the external circumstances to shift before they move, or they become frantic, filling the transitional space with so much activity and effort and self-generated momentum that they create noise over exactly the signal they are supposed to be hearing. Neither of those responses serves you in this moment. What serves you is something more precise. 3 areas of your life are in the process of transformation, and in each one, there are specific actionable things you can do right now that will position you to receive what is coming with both hands fully open. The first area is relationships, and what I want to give you here is not advice about how to find new connections, or how to network strategically, or how to present yourself in social situations. What I want to give you is something quieter and more fundamental than any of that. The single most important thing you can do in the relational area of your life right now is to stop performing and start being present. Chosen ones who have been in long seasons of waiting develop, almost without noticing it, a habit of relational performance. They have learned to manage how they are perceived. They have learned to present the version of themselves that does not make other people uncomfortable, the version that does not carry too much visible need, or too much visible vision, or too much visible anything that invite the wrong kind of response. And this performance, while it has protected you in certain ways, has also created a distance between your actual self and the people you interact with that makes genuine connection almost impossible. What is coming in the relational dimension of your life requires you to be findable. The people who are being sent to you are looking for the real version of you, not the managed version, and they will not be able to locate you behind the performance. So the practical action is this: in one relationship, just one, this week, let yourself be more honest than is comfortable. Not dramatically, not with an unburdening that overwhelms the other person, but with one true thing that you would normally edit out. One genuine expression of where you actually are. This is not vulnerability for its own sake. This is you making yourself findable to the connections that are already in transit toward your life. And in terms of the people who are leaving, the relationships that are completing, the practical action is to release them with intention, rather than letting them drift into the background with unspoken residue. This does not require a formal conversation in every case. Sometimes It is simply an internal act of release, a deliberate decision made in the quiet of your own heart to stop holding on to what is completing and to bless it as it goes. That internal release does something in the spiritual atmosphere of your relational field that creates genuine space rather than a space that is technically empty but still filled with the energy of what you are holding on to. Let it go cleanly, bless it as it leaves, and then turn to face the direction from which the new is coming. The second area is purpose, and here the practical action is perhaps the simplest and most challenging thing I will say in this entire message. Write down the one thing you already know, not the full vision, not the 10-year plan, not the detailed map of everything you believe you are called to do. The one thing you already know you are supposed to do that you have not yet done because you have been waiting for more certainty, more resources, more confirmation, more permission. Every chosen one in a transitional season has this one thing. It sits in the back of their awareness like a low hum that they have learned to live with because acting on it feels premature or risky or presumptuous. Write it down today, not as a plan, as an acknowledgement. Put it on paper in your own handwriting and say to yourself as you write it, I know this, I have known this, and I am no longer going to pretend that I do not know it. The act of writing it down does something that keeping it in your head does not do. It makes it real in a dimension that thought alone cannot reach. It moves it from the category of private inner knowing into the category of declared intention. And declared intention, the Kairos framework we spoke about earlier, is what opens the next step. You do not need to know how you will do it. You do not need the resources assembled, or the circumstances aligned, or the people in place. You need to write down the one thing you know, and then take the smallest possible step toward it within the next 24 hours. Not a dramatic leap. The smallest possible step. Send the message. Make the call. Open the document. Register the domain. Have the conversation. Whatever the smallest possible step is, take it before the sun goes down tomorrow. The clarity of purpose that is moving toward you will not land in a life that is still waiting for permission to move. It will land in a life that is already in motion, even by a single step. The third area is resources and opportunities, and this is where I want to say something that may run counter to everything the striving of the previous season has taught you. The practical action in this area is not to work harder. It is to work differently. Specifically, it is to stop pushing against doors that are not opening and to start paying close attention to what is opening without effort. Chosen ones in seasons of transition frequently miss the early signs of resource and opportunity movement because they are so accustomed to straining that they do not recognize what ease feels like when it arrives. A door that opens easily does not feel like the kind of door that could be important, because everything important in the previous season required enormous effort to access. But the Kairos transition I have been describing is characterized precisely by a change in the quality of the movement. Things begin to open with a naturalness that surprises you. Connections come through unexpected routes. Opportunities arrive through people you were not specifically pursuing. Resources appear from directions you did not plan for. Your practical action in this area is to keep a simple record for the next 30 days. Every time something moves with unexpected ease, write it down. Every time a door opens without you having to force it, note it. Every time a resource appears from an unexpected direction, record it. Do not evaluate these occurrences as they happen. Simply collect them. At the end of 30 days, look at what you have collected. What you will see is not a series of random coincidences. You will see a pattern, and that pattern will show you the direction in which the full momentum of the Kairos transition is flowing. It will show you where to put your energy and where to stop spending it on resistance that is not yours to overcome. These three practical actions together, being present in relationships, writing down the one thing you know and taking one step, and tracking where ease is already appearing, create a posture of receptivity that is entirely different from the straining posture of the waiting season. They are small actions. They are quiet actions, but they are precisely calibrated to the specific kind of movement that is happening in your life right now. And taken together, they represent a fundamental shift in how you are engaging with the transition you are already inside of. I also want to say something about the practical stewardship of your mind during this period, because the three actions I have just described require a level of mental clarity that is difficult to sustain in a brain that has been carrying the accumulated weight of a long season of waiting. The fog of the previous season does not lift automatically just because the circumstances begin to shift. The frequency needs active restoration. And this is why what Dr. James Rivers built and what I introduced earlier in this message matters practically and not just theoretically. 7 minutes a day of the Genius Wave is not a spiritual discipline. It is a practical one. It is the daily restoration of the cognitive clarity that allows you to see the open doors when they appear, to hear the one clear step when it speaks, to recognize the new relational connections when they arrive. A mind operating at suppressed frequency will miss things that a mind operating at full gamma clarity will catch. The link is in the pinned comment. It is there for whenever you are ready, not as an obligation, as a tool that belongs in the hands of someone who is stepping into exactly what you are stepping into. You have been given 3 things to do: practical, immediate, and specific. And what I want to give you in the final parts of this message is something different in register from what has come before. I want to speak to the part of you that has been carrying this the longest, the part that showed up here today, not because you had extra energy to spare, but because something in you refused to stop reaching toward the next thing, even when the reaching was exhausting. That part of you deserves to be spoken to directly, and that is exactly what I am about to do. I want to speak directly to the part of you that showed up here today, not the part that had everything together, not the part that was confident and rested and full of forward momentum, the part that came anyway, the part that pressed play on this message even though you were tired, even though a quieter voice somewhere in you was suggesting that maybe this would be more of the same, more words that would stir something temporarily and then leave you in the same place you were before. That part of you took a risk today. I do not want to let this message close without honoring that directly. You have been carrying something for a long time, not just the vision, not just the calling, not just the hope for what is coming, but the weight of carrying all of that while also living an ordinary life, while also paying bills and navigating relationships and showing up for responsibilities that do not care how heavy your invisible load is, while also managing the gap between what you know is true in your spirit and what is currently visible in your circumstances. That is not a small thing to carry. That is an enormous thing. And the fact that you are still here, still believing, still reaching for the next message and the next word and the next confirmation that you are not wrong about what you have been sensing, that is not desperation. That is faithfulness. And faithfulness in the hidden season is the rarest and most costly form of obedience that exists. You are not alone in this. I want you to receive that not as a comfort phrase, but as a literal and accurate description of what is true right now. All across the world, at this exact moment, other chosen ones are walking into this exact same message. They are sitting in their cars and their bedrooms and their kitchen chairs, and they are hearing the same words you are hearing and feeling the same recognition you have been feeling throughout this message. There is a wave of chosen ones all over the earth who are arriving at this same threshold at the same time. Not by coincidence, by design. Because what heaven is about to do requires a company of people who have been through the making, who have come out of the long season, shaped and qualified and ready, and who are now standing at the edge of their Kairos moment together. You are not a solitary figure in a private struggle. You are part of a company. And that company is larger than you have been able to see from inside your own particular waiting room. I want to give you one final exercise before I release you from this message. And I want you to actually do it, not just hear it described. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at a threshold, a doorway between two rooms. Behind you is the room you have been living in, the room of the waiting season, the room that holds all of the weight you have been carrying. All of it is there. The years of deferred hope, the relationships that thinned out, the career that stalled, the faith in yourself that took hits, the insomnia and the loneliness and the feeling of being misunderstood, the grief of what the season cost you. It is all there in that room behind you, every bit of it real and every bit of it significant. Now I want you to do something with it, not carry it through the doorway with you. Set it down, right there at the threshold, not because it did not matter, but because it has already done its work in you. The weight of the wait season shaped you into the veil lifter you are. It qualified you. It deposited in you everything you needed. And now it is finished with its work. You do not need to carry the weight of it into the next room. You only need to carry what it made you into. So set it down at the threshold, all of it. The grief, the cost, the confusion, the unanswered questions, the years that felt wasted, the relationships that did not last, the plans that did not go through. Set them down gently, with gratitude for what they produced, and leave them there. And then turn and face the room in front of you. That room is already lit, not blindingly, not all at once, but lit. There are people in it who are already there waiting for you. There are opportunities in it that have your name on them. There is a version of your life in it that you have been carrying in your spirit for so long that you had almost stopped trusting the picture. That room is real, and the threshold between where you are standing and where that room begins is not a long distance. It is one step. Something real was built here today, in the space between my voice and your heart, and it belongs to both of us now. If this message has meant something to you, if something shifted in the space between one sentence and the next, if you felt yourself being named and seen and spoken to in a way that felt less content and more like correspondence, then I want to invite you gently to press like on this message. Not as a gesture toward a number on a screen, but as a way of saying yes to what was spoken here today without needing to find words for it. And if you leave something in the comments, a single word, a sentence, anything at all, you become part of what recruits the next chosen one who finds this message in their own midnight hour. You become proof that someone was here before them and that they are not arriving alone. Share this with one person today, just one. The one who has been quietly struggling, who has been carrying something they cannot explain to the people around. Them, who needs to know that the three things I described in this message are also moving toward them. That act of sharing is perhaps the simplest and most complete expression of love one chosen one can offer another. And if you have not yet subscribed, let that be the quiet choice you make to remain in this community of chosen ones who are waking up together, one message at a time. If something in you feels moved to leave something behind in the donation link in the pinned comment, know that what you offer there does not support a platform. It becomes the light that the next person in the dark navigates by. There is no pressure in that. No expectation. Only an open hand if you feel moved to place something in it. Now, before I bring this message to its close, I want to mention something one final time, without pressure and without urgency, simply because it belongs here. If the genius wave met you somewhere in the middle of this message, if what I described about gamma frequency and the suppression that comes from long seasons of waiting landed somewhere true in you, if something in you recognized the fog I described and felt the possibility of what 7 minutes a day might do to lift it, then it is waiting for you in the pinned comment below. Dr. James Rivers built it for exactly the person you are right now, someone at the threshold, someone whose frequency has been dimmed by the weight of a long season and who is about to step into something that will require every bit of the clarity and creative power that frequency carries when it is fully restored. The link is there. It will be there when you are ready. And the 90-day guarantee means that readiness costs you nothing but the decision to try. You have traveled the full length of this message today, and what you are carrying as you prepare to leave this space is not the same as what you were carrying when you arrived. Something has been added. Something has been named. Something has been set down at the threshold. And the person who walks away from this message is already, in ways that may not yet be fully visible, different from the person who pressed play at the beginning. What comes next in this series will take what was laid here and build further on it. The foundation set today is not the end of what is being constructed. It is the beginning of what the next message will rise from. And when it comes, I hope you are there for it. But right now, in this moment, before the next thing begins, I simply want to say this. You showed up, and that matters more than you know. Before you close this and return to the ordinary movements of your day, I want to leave something with you. Not information, not another concept to carry, something quieter than that, a blessing, spoken over the specific person you are, in the specific moment you are in, at the specific threshold you are standing at right now. You came here today carrying something, and you listened all the way through. That is not a small thing. In a world that is designed to fragment attention and pull the mind in 17 directions simultaneously, you stayed. You gave this message your presence, and in doing so, you gave yourself something that chosen ones in busy, noisy seasons rarely give themselves. You gave yourself the experience of being still long enough to be spoken to, long enough to be named, long enough to feel the particular quality of recognition that comes when truth lands in a place that has been waiting for it. I want you to carry 3 things away from this space today. The first is this. What God canceled in your life was not taken from you carelessly. Every closing was a clearing. Every ending was a preparation. And as the space those cancellations created is not empty space. It is sacred space. It is the room that what is coming needs in order to arrive fully. Do not rush to fill it. Let it be what it is. The room that is waiting to receive the next chapter of your life. The second is the name you were given here today. Veil Lifter. Not as an aspiration, not as a future identity you are working toward, but as a present reality that is already at work in you. You have already been lifting veils in the lives of people around you without knowing it had a name. Now you know, and knowing changes how you carry it. Walk into every room from this day forward with the awareness that you bring something to the atmosphere that other people need. Not because you have perfected yourself, but because of what you have been through and what it has deposited in you. The third is the simplest of all. You are not behind. You have never been behind. You have been in Kairos preparation for a Kairos moment that is not approaching from a distance. It is already here. The door is already open. The room is already lit. And the person you have become through everything this season has required of you is exactly, precisely, and completely the person that the next chapter was built for. Go gently. Go with the awareness that you are accompanied. Go with the knowing that the sealed tomb was never the last word, and that midnight is always, always the edge of morning. You are chosen. You are seen. You are being sent. And what heaven decided to do for you was worth every single day of the wait.